The tranquil Kashmiri valley of Pahalgam was brutally shattered on April 28, 2025. A horrific terror attack, orchestrated by Pakistan-backed proxies, claimed 20 innocent lives. The nation reeled, demanding retribution. But this time, India's response would be swift, decisive, and fundamentally alter the rules of engagement. This was Operation Sindoor. For weeks, intelligence agencies meticulously tracked terror networks across the line of control. Surveillance confirmed 9 active terror launch pads and training camps, the very hubs that planned Pahalgam. The decision was made at the highest levels. These havens of hate would be neutralized. At precisely 2 a.m. on May 7, 2025, a chilling silence settled over the India-Pakistan border. Deep within Indian territory, Indian Air Force platforms launched their deadly payload, stealthy long-range cruise missiles and precision-guided bombs. They sliced through the night, hugging the terrain, evading detection. Pakistani air defenses remained eerily quiet. Indian commanders, anticipating a reaction, found none. Caught off guard and blinded by India's electronic warfare, the adversary was frozen. All 9 intended targets were neutralized with clinical efficiency. Crucially, no collateral damage was reported. It was a flawless execution. When the smoke cleared, the human toll on terror outfits was staggering. Dozens of jihadist operatives were eliminated, many in their sleep. Initial estimates put the count at around 70. Later intelligence suggested over 100, including high-value extremists like Yusuf Azhar, Abdul Malik Rauf, and Mudassir Ahmed, men long on India's most wanted list. Entire leadership echelons of Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Taiba were crippled, yet not a single Pakistani civilian or bystander was harmed. India had delivered retribution that was both devastating and restrained, sending an unmistakable message to the masterminds of terror and their enablers. A symbolic triumph. Women lead the narrative hours later. As dawn broke on May 7th, millions of Indians awoke to a new reality. Their country had struck back, decisively and righteously. News channels displayed maps of Pakistan with fiery pinpoints where terror camps had been reduced to ash. A swell of pride and relief swept the nation. The symbolism of Operation Sindoor was only just unfolding. That afternoon, the Ministry of Defense called an unprecedented press briefing. History was made as 2 officers stepped up to the podium. Colonel Sophia Qureshi of the Indian Army and Wing Commander Vyomika Singh of the Indian Air Force. Both were women, one a Muslim, the other a Hindu. Together they became the faces and voices of India's triumph. In crisp uniforms, they calmly outlined the tri-services operation. The significance was profound, a direct rebuttal to Pakistan's divisive two-nation theory. India proved not only can Hindus and Muslims coexist, they can together defend the nation at the highest level. With poise, Colonel Qureshi detailed how targets were chosen based on concrete intelligence, emphasizing that India's response was focused, measured, and non-escalatory, aimed solely at terrorist infrastructure, avoiding civilian areas. Wing Commander Singh then explained the advanced weaponry used. We deployed niche technology weapons, the French-origin Scalp cruise missiles, and Hammer precision-guided bombs, ensuring zero collateral damage. She affirmed the strikes were conducted from within Indian territory without breaching Pakistani airspace. The fact that women officers delivered this message carried immense emotional weight. They were instantly hailed as national heroes and role models. The iconic Indian dairy brand Amul released a celebratory cartoon that very day, showing the Amul girls saluting the 2 women officers with fighter jets in the backdrop and the bold tagline, "Send them packing." Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri stood alongside, framing Operation Sindoor within international law and India's right to self-defense. The presence of a Muslim woman and a Hindu woman speaking as one team was, as one analyst put it, the new face of India's strategic leadership, precise, restrained, inclusive, and unapologetically bold. As the briefing concluded, palpable emotion filled the room. The codename Sindoor paid homage to the Sindoor the Pahalgam victims' widows would no longer wear. India had honored their loss. Colonel Qureshi's closing words resonated deeply. This operation is a tribute to every Indian who has suffered from terror. We did what had to be done, and we did it as one nation. The quiet applause was a cathartic moment for a nation that had long awaited justice. The aftermath: Pakistan's failed response. Across the border, Islamabad and Rawalpindi were in disarray. Pakistan's leadership woke up to a nightmare. India's strike had demolished high-value terror assets they denied existed. Their initial response was predictable: denial and bluster, even as frantic ambulance sirens told a different story. Humiliated, Pakistan felt compelled to respond. Within 24 hours, Pakistan staged a token retaliation. On May 8th, Pakistani Air Force jets scrambled towards the border. But India was ready. Combat air patrols were on high alert, and the advanced S-400 air defense system was active. As Pakistani JF-17s and F-16s approached, they were immediately locked onto by Indian Sukhoi 30 MKIs and the multi-layered air defense network. Not a single Pakistani aircraft crossed the line of control. In the ensuing dogfight, India repelled the intrusion and shot down a few Pakistani planes, with one exploding mid-air over Pokhara. The rest scattered. In the melee, a surprising technical bounty fell into India's lap. Villagers in Hoshiarpur discovered an unexploded Chinese-made PL-15 long-range air-to-air missile fired by the Pakistani Air Force, fully intact. This unexpected gift offered India's defense scientists a rare opportunity to study cutting-edge Chinese military technology. Unable to breach Indian skies, Pakistan resorted to firing from the shadows. Over the next 2 nights, May 8 to 9, ceasefire violations erupted along the LOC. Pakistani artillery shelled Indian posts, and drones attempted to breach Indian territory. India's response was swift and punishing. The Indian Army answered with overwhelming counterfire, destroying bunkers and ammo dumps. India's riposte inflicted 35-40 Pakistani military casualties. Pakistan proposed a ceasefire, only to renege hours later, opening fire again. Our armed forces have been instructed to respond firmly to any further provocations, Foreign Secretary Misri announced. Pakistan also launched missiles and armed drones at Indian military bases on May 9th, but Indian integrated air defense units were on full alert. Radar-guided guns and SAM batteries engaged the low-flying drones, shooting them down. Incoming missiles were tracked and neutralized by anti-missile defenses. All attacks were thwarted, with no damage on the Indian side. For every move Pakistan tried, India had an answer. On the information front, Pakistan launched a disinformation campaign online with fake news and morphed images. But India countered with savvy efficiency. The Indian Army's Public Information Wing promptly debunked these falsifications, stamping fake over viral images. The truth of the battlefield could not be hidden for long. Internationally, Pakistan found itself largely isolated. Hopes that major powers would condemn India were quickly dashed. Instead, global condemnation focused on the terrorism that provoked the strikes. The United States, France, Russia, and others urged restraint but implicitly validated India's stance, emphasizing Pakistan's need to rein in terror groups. Even China offered only tepid comments, stopping short of condemning India. At the UN, Indian diplomats presented evidence of the targeted camp's terror activities. No international censure materialized against India. Instead, there was a sense that India had set a new benchmark for striking terrorist targets effectively and responsibly. Pakistan's economy teetered on the brink of panic. Already in crisis, the flare-up with India sent investors fleeing. The Karachi Stock Exchange plummeted. In an embarrassing episode, Pakistan's Ministry of Economic Affairs tweeted a plea for international loans to cope with heavy losses inflicted by the enemy, admitting war and a stock crash were pushing them to the brink. Though hastily disowned as hacked, the damage was done. Memes of Pakistan's begging bowl flooded the internet. Diplomatically, India intensified the squeeze. In a historic move, New Delhi suspended the Indus Waters Treaty, citing Pakistan's continued sponsorship of terror. The Indus Waters Treaty will be held in abeyance until Islamabad credibly and irrevocably ends its support for terrorism. Pakistan literally panicked, pleading for reconsideration, but India was unmoved. As PM Modi stated, water and blood cannot flow together. Terror and talks cannot happen at the same time. Trade links were minimal, but now even cultural and sporting contacts froze. Visa issuance to Pakistanis halted. India worked to keep Pakistan on the FATF's terror financing radar. Pakistan's attempts to seek a face-saving exit were met with a firm Indian stance. No tolerance for aggression, no negotiation on the core demand. Pakistan must act against terror groups or face isolation.